Okay, welcome welcome to the Hometown Huddle podcast, episode 5 technically. Now some of you might ask what happened to episode 4. I published it for like a minute and a half. We recorded it on Thanksgiving, and then as I was listening to it, you couldn't hear any of the voices. Really, it was kind of a mess, so I just took it down. Might edit that one and put it back up.
Some people might say that was our best episode.
That was
I
our
know,
best
that's what I
episode
would
yet.
say.
It actually was, probably, as far as just banter goes, because we were all in person together, but we hadn't quite figured out the soundboard. The soundboard we have is we've tried to stretch it to use as many mics as possible, but in reality, it's really only good for about 2 microphones, and that's fine. So
What our budget allows.
yes, I mean, you can actually get a bigger.
We're looking for
not that
sponsors.
expensive. We bought this
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
Bump that up.
Yeah, if anybody wants to sponsor the podcast, let us know. And it doesn't have to be monetary. You could just, buy a better soundboard, I guess. It's not like
just
it
be our
matters.
friend.
We're not in person all that much. Anyway, but the soundboard was somewhat kind of expensive when we bought it during COVID because we were gonna do a podcast during COVID. I don't even remember. Probably. And
Probably.
then, everybody was.
Everybody was.
Thank goodness we didn't,
That's why they're
right?
so expensive.
The market, that's really why. And now they're not that expensive. You could buy a better one than this for probably half the price of what I bought this one for. And we have like 10 microphones too.
Yeah.
So, anyways, that's what happened there. So we're back after a few weeks of hiatus. Things have slightly calmed down in a few areas because high school football season's officially over now. The state championships were this Friday and Saturday in Washington, and Royal once again for the 5th season in a row is won the championship. I don't know, there's probably not a great cool way of saying that, but we won again.
Yeah.
Pretty exciting. So, it is cool. So, we won 8 of the last 9 WIAA titles, and then also so it's been 10 seasons, and then in the COVID season, right, we went undefeated and beat a bunch of 4A schools. We're the number 1 ranked team at the end of that abbreviated season too. So. 8 of the last 9 in 2015, 16, and 17, and then now 2019, 2021, 2, 3, and now 2024. So 5 in a row, which makes us the only official team in Washington to have 5 in a row. And kind of helps out because Bellevue, back in the day, I guess, got busted for some violations. So they had to vacate. They won 6 in a row, but 2 of those got vacated. And so technically, we're the only 5 in a row team, and it means because we won and they lost on Friday, we actually have the most state titles in Washington state history. So pretty exciting. There's a few other records.
Oh wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. So we have 13 and they have 12. So pretty cool.
Wow.
Pretty dang
I
exciting.
did not know that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Royal, what a team, huh? What a city.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. It was really cool.
It is incredible.
Yeah, we had a little meeting, and normally this is like a little longer, but usually like the next day of school after the season's over, any year, even when we don't win, usually do a thing, and the seniors all give some advice or something they learned to the underclassmen. And so this year we had like a little bit of an abbreviated meeting because there was some other stuff going on, but. I told the kids that I was like, there should probably be parades and fireworks and all sorts of stuff for you because this is a big accomplishment. And it's really big because of some of the stats and stuff, too, that I'll kind of get into. I have a whole recap here. But it's really easy when you've won so many in a row, I guess. It's kind of like, we won again. Cool. Like, it happens every year. But it was a really cool thing. It was amazing. Winning 5 in a row and then the way everything kind of went down. But I really enjoy them at Husky Stadium, I guess. I think it's a cool place. I don't know. As far as being in the Tacoma Dome, I didn't go there a lot. I only went to 2 there. The one I played in when I was a senior, and then I went to one of Corbin's. How do you guys that went and watched a bunch of those, what's the viewing experience like between the 2?
Playing in the Tacoma Dome is awesome. And mostly because the weather is controlled, but I don't know. I kind of favor Husky Stadium, especially since we've had good weather for both times that we've played there.
Yeah, the last 2 years we got.
But
like
you get in those
crazy
other
good.
games, the last 2 years we've stayed for the later game, and it has not been fun. That would be rough. But
Yeah,
we've been so fortunate. That really makes it special, I think.
yeah.
I feel like the only advantage to the Tacoma Dome was the weather.
Yeah.
Because I feel like the turf was kind of weird and not great, and it just there wasn't a lot of added benefit other than a roof over your head,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The lights
The
at
lights were
Husky
weird.
Stadium are awesome because they're everywhere. Has that
Yeah.
huge screen. It's just that's pretty electric atmosphere there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's
Caleb, what do you think?
yeah.
I guess you didn't ever play in the Tacoma Dome other than warming up, but
yeah, I never played in this Tacoma Dome, and I watched a few games. The Husky Stadium, that was pretty cool. I thought the Tacoma Dome was like pretty unique, playing in a dome. That was a little different. It was kind of a cool tradition, but I like Husky Stadium. That was pretty sweet.
Yeah, I just
a little different than Harry Lang Stadium.
Yeah,
yeah, a little different.
Harry E. Lang Stadium, our home away from home, where we won 3 titles. So for people who don't know, the Gridiron Classic or whatever, the state championships thing, it was in the Kingdome for a long time, isn't that right? Before that was,
I think, it was, for a long time.
Yeah, and then the Tacoma Dome
Royal played there once.
Yeah, in '94, and then in '95 or '96, it started being played in the Tacoma Dome, and then in 2018 was the last year in the Tacoma Dome. So I guess there were some renovations or something that made it harder, more specifically for the big schools that had a lot of fans coming. So there was a lot of obstructed views and then I think also it was just expensive. Like the WIAA had to pay a bunch of money for it, and they kind of got sick of doing that. I don't know all the reasoning. Those are just some of the things you kind of hear. And so in 2019, they just played it at some nice high school stadiums, but just kind of random ones. It definitely didn't necessarily feel the same. I don't know. Maybe it did. I think on the days, the ones I went to, so I went and watched Caleb in 2019. That one felt pretty intense because it was so overcast and rainy. So I don't know if the darkness kind of made it seem more. And then in 2021, when we went there, but in 2022 we played Mount Baker and it was like sunny. It was cold, but it was sunny, and that one it was like it's season. It felt more like a semifinal or quarterfinal game that you're playing on like a Saturday evening, afternoon. I mean, it was still cool. Like it was an awesome experience seeing those guys. But yeah, so Harry E. Lang Stadium, I think that's where we won a few championships on this run. So between 2015 and 2024 now we've won 8 state titles and in 3 different stadiums, which is pretty cool. Yeah. But I just remember the Tacoma Dome. I don't know, feeling like it was kind of dark, maybe not dark in there, but the lighting's weird and it is kind of hot in there too. Like when you're playing, it kind of sucks. Like you get tired really fast. And there's all sorts of stories of people throwing up. I'm sure we could get tons of. You hear from Kyle and Jeremy and James Dykes and stuff. All the stories of just throwing up out on the field in the Tacoma Dome. So I think there's some benefits, but I think like just the lighting and just being in the stadium is cool. I remember when they were announcing the Husky Stadium thing, they were like, this is going to be stupid because it's not even going to be full and like it's going to look dumb. And it does not look dumb. It actually looks cool. I think when you have, even those 8-man schools, it's like they're barely filling up anything, but it's awesome. Like, and even just your little amount of fans, like I feel like when they announced, here come the Royal Knights out of the tunnel, I felt like it was really loud. Even just the Royal fans that were there. Which were a lot, which was awesome. It is cool, I think, even after so many championships in a row, the people here really do come out and support. I felt like it was really good this year, especially like all the home games were packed and even the away games, people were all over it. And there at Husky Stadium, it was awesome. I felt like we had one of the biggest crowds. I mean, I didn't really see the 4A. It was the next day, but watching them on TV and seeing the pictures, I'm like, I feel like we were pretty close to a lot of those 4A school sizes as far as people being there, which was cool. We did get some fans from other schools coming also, so that helped. We had Kingsway Christian, who is the academic state champs, and they always honor the academic state championships at halftime, so whatever team had the best GPA. But they're in Seton Catholic's league, and they really don't like each other, so they came shirtless and painted Go Royal on their chests and stuff, so that was fun. We got some support from the other league. So. All right, so just recap here of the season. So this year the league was combined. So in the past years we've had the SCAC, the South Central Athletic Conference, and it's been split into two sides, East and West. And so we've always been in the East, and we've won that a million times. I think it's been us or Connell pretty much every year, except for 1 year Riverview won it. So for like the past 25 years or 24 years, however long that league has been a thing, it's been us, Connell, and then 1 year of Riverview, basically. But this year, they did all this realignment stuff, and they combined. Some teams went up, some teams went down. So like Toppenish went up to 2A, LaSalle went down to B. Kashmir got kind of booted out of the league they were in the CTL because the B schools that played in that one didn't like them, I guess. I don't know. And so we got combined into this big league, and so we had to play. So we have 8 league games, which is crazy. We like never have that many. In the past, it's been 4 or 5, maybe 6. Maybe some years you'd have 7 league games, and so you'd fill that in with non-league. Like we'd play Zilla almost every year, and that's technically a non-league game. But this year was a league game. So this year we opened up. First game of the season was a league game versus Kai B. I think it was 65-0. And then the next week was College Place, and that was 69-7. And so we're scoring a lot. Then the next week was Connell, and Connell's always tough, and it was in Connell. So that one was 42-7. We got up 42-0. But what was tough in that one, I remember, was Santana Luna got his knee a little bit twisted up, like in the second quarter. And so everybody, and he was out, and people didn't know if, like, did he tear his ACL? Like, what was up? And so everybody got really tentative for the rest of that game. And so it was kind of like once we got to 42, it was like kind of run out the clock and let's get out of here.
Stop.
And they scored once, which was good. Like they were a good team. Connell was. And then the next week was Zilla, and Zilla was actually technically the closest game of the season. We got up 28-0 in the first quarter, and then Ethan Ellis, who had torn his ACL last year, went down and actually re-aggravated that injury, and so missed a lot of time. And so that was another one. Then they hit a couple long passes, just random fluky, and so I feel like those 2 games were our lowest scoring games of the year, Connell and Zilla. But in both of those games, there were a couple like injuries, and the whole feeling there is like, okay, like we're gonna win these games. Let's not be too crazy. I feel like that was kind of across the whole team. And so, yeah, Zilla was 49-28, and then we beat Prosser like 52-6 or something. And then who was after Prosser? No, it was Kashmir next. Sorry, Kashmir was after Zilla, and that was 55-14. And then Prosser was like 52-8. And then we had 4 games in a row where we scored 70 or more points. So Walook, Natchez, Wapato, and then Klahowya in the first round of the playoffs. Those were all 70-0 or 76-0, or Klahowya was 76-6. So we won by 70 points 4 weeks in a row. And then this year, because there weren't as many teams, only 45 teams in 1A. I think you have to have 48 in order to qualify for a 32-team bracket. So we only qualified for a 24-team bracket, and so we had a first-round bye. And then we played Linden Christian, and that was 55-12 in the quarterfinals. Then played Kashmir again in the semifinals. That was 44-7. And then we got to the state championship game versus Seton Catholic. And the final score, that was 61-28, but it was tied 21 all at halftime, and that was kind of crazy. So last year we played Seton Catholic in the semifinals, and it was 41-0, and they didn't have a single senior on their team. Maybe they had 1 senior. So they were bringing back their whole team. They were really good. So it was kind of intense going into halftime. I don't know, you guys that were there watching, what were your thoughts going into halftime of the championship?
It definitely was, oh my gosh, what's going on? But it didn't feel like, still feel like, okay, we're better than these guys. We've just got to tighten up a few things we're doing wrong. That was the biggest thing. They scored on a couple of big plays or fluke things that happened that typically don't happen. So it didn't feel like, oh my goodness, it's really going to be tough. It's going to be difficult to beat them. Didn't feel that way at all. It just felt like, okay, we got to make some changes.
Yeah.
So
got to hold on to the ball a little bit. Yeah, so...
I mean, there's ones past, like, what year was Dylan the quarterback? That Mount Baker was close to halftime. It's like, oh my gosh, we have really got to play well to beat these guys.
Yeah, they were
and there's
good.
been... Or Caleb's game even, it's like, oh man, live, this is stressful.
So 2019, yeah, Caleb was the quarterback. He's a junior, and we played Linden Christian. What was the score at halftime? Were we ahead at halftime?
I think it was 7-7 at halftime.
Was it? Yeah, it was tight.
It was close. Yeah, they were good.
Yeah, that was a
Yeah.
good team.
Yeah, I would not say this year felt like those.
No, not at all.
No, and I think like a big reason why too is we scored 21 points off of like we drove the ball down. They were like 8-play, 10-play drives, boom, 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 touchdown. It wasn't even like they were off of turnovers. I mean, like one we got an interception, but it was in our own territory, so you had to drive down and score. And then they scored their first touchdown. They hit like a big old fade ball, got like 60 yards on it. Now we're inside the 15, and they scored a few plays later. The second one they returned, they did a little trick kickoff return on us because their best guy, number 1, Joe Calarame, we were like keying on him because he is fast. And if he gets the ball, it's dangerous. So he didn't go in on all the kickoff returns, but we're always aware of him. So he came in on one, and so we're like, be aware of number 1. Right, look for something goofy, and they sort of took advantage of that. They set up a fake throwback to him, and then set up a wall, and our guys all bid on the fake, which I totally understand because basically we had said focus on number 1, and then that guy took off up the sideline and scored. And then in the last couple of minutes, we fumbled twice in our own inside our own 25. So fumbled once, actually pushed them back like 10 to 15 yards, and I think they punted, and then like first play we fumble again inside the 15, and they score to tie it up. So it was definitely, and then we fumbled the last play of the half too, but it didn't matter. We recovered, but yeah, going into halftime, it was a little bit like, okay, hold on to the ball, guys. Like, we're fine. So yeah, going into, I think halftime, it was like, yeah, if you looked at it, we were fine. It was just like a couple random things. And the kids did a really good job of rebounding, I felt like. It's hard with that momentum. Halftime was probably the best thing that could have happened. I feel like that was a good time for all that stuff to happen because it was like, all right, now we need to just go in and mentally regroup and you have some time. And we were getting the ball at halftime, which was cool. So we didn't get to double dip, I guess, necessarily where we score right before halftime. Because after that kickoff return touchdown, there were like 3 minutes left. And I was like, all right, it's 21-14, but we can go down and score in the next few minutes. That's my thing. I'm like, then it's 28-14. Then we get the ball at half. I'm like, you can start to see this thing snowballing. And instead, they tied it up. But it ended up getting to be kind of snowballed in the end because we scored, and then they came out and tried kind of a goofball fake punt, I felt like. It was like really obvious where they like really slow motioned a guy over and then did a really bad fake and had their punter who's not necessarily, like he doesn't get the ball ever. It's not like they have like their good receiver at punter.
And they called a timeout before it too. So
yeah, they were. Because they came out because it was fourth. It was like 4th and 3, and they were going to go for it, and then they took a timeout and did the fake punt. But it wasn't. I mean, Caden Fitzhugh was all over it. Like it just like I don't know. It wasn't a great design. I heard some people on some other podcasts too say like, why do that with your good players? Like put your best player back there, and that's a lot of the special teams. So like a bunch of the clinics I went to and attended this off season, that's what they said. They're like, if you have a really good punter, that's awesome, that's cool. But in high school, if you have a good athlete who can punt, that's a lot of times better because then they have to respect it, So you'll see a lot of people, we got a punter who can just kill the ball and place it and stuff, and that's great. But if you're punting that much, it's maybe not. I don't know. Maybe work on your offense a little bit. I don't know. That's just kind of what they said. It's like it's better to have a threat back there because then when you do fake, you can make stuff happen. So, which we faked one. It wasn't called. At least I don't think it was. I don't think it ever is. It was that close, right off Ben's fingertips, like just so close. But yeah, Lance kind of has the free reign to call it whenever he wants. So, oh no, we're giving away the secrets. Well, he graduated, so. So I guess I don't think
it was set up perfect.
I know. Was that the only one we faked all year? I don't think we faked another one.
How many times did we punt in a year?
I think 3, 4. And one of them was in that game. We actually did
maybe.
Punt. Yeah, I think we punted 4 times. I could look at the stats. But yeah, and then, we have them stopped inside the 30. We score, we're up 14. We end up scoring one more time and getting a couple of pick sixes, which was cool too. They scored one more time. So 61-28 was the final. It was really cool. Lance ran for 6 touchdowns. which is a school record and a state record. So most touchdowns scored in a state championship game. He beat Avery. Avery had 5 in 2021. So Lance had 6, and that's the most touchdowns ever scored in a game by a Royal player. It's a school record now, and then most rushing touchdowns. A few people have had, like Jeff Jack had 5 rushing, and a few people, like Santana had 5 mixed between offense, defense, special teams. Avery had 5 offense, defense, special teams in a game. So there's been a few guys that have 5, but Lance broke that record, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. He's pretty crazy. And then threw for one. So over his 3 championship games, he has scored 11 touchdowns. So he ran for 9 between 2023 and 2024. He caught 2 in 2022, and he's playing receiver. And he also had thrown 4. And then he's thrown 1 interception, but he's also intercepted 2 passes. So in his 3 championship games he played, he caught more interceptions than he threw. Scored 11 touchdowns, scoring them himself in the end zone, plus 4 touchdown passes. So potentially the best. I mean, there's nobody else who has that kind of stats in the state history. So I don't know.
That is incredible.
Yeah,
it really is. What was the one stat that he almost broke? He caught more interceptions than he threw in an entire season. Is that what it was?
So
I don't know if that.
He hasn't done that one. Caden Jenks did that in 2015. He can you guys hear me? Looks frozen.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe just Dad's frozen. So Caden Jenks caught he intercepted I think 6. I think he had 6 interceptions and only threw 2. The only other person who might be close, AJ Eldridge. I don't know his exact stats, but he was one who had a lot of interceptions and also played quarterback. I don't have the exact stats on his year, how many interceptions he threw. So he's one who could be close.
Where was Lance?
So Lance this year, I can look at the stats. I think he had 3 interceptions and he threw 5. Yeah. Let's see. I'll pull up Huddle. I have a few stats here because this year was crazy as far as the stats go, offensively and defensively. And then
he was probably pretty close to that though, because I think. Let's see. There was one of those games, like, because he threw 3 of those interceptions in the playoffs, right? So he would have been, and like in the
in the regular season he only had like 2, and they were both tipped balls. Yeah. So in the regular season he only threw 2 picks, and they were both tipped. Like, it wasn't like he threw a bad pass. He had 2 against, who was it? Lyndon Christian, where a guy just kind of slid under like a route. That's right. And then he threw one on the first play against Kashmir, but it was no big deal. So let's see, Lance.
So in the regular season, he had.
Oh yeah.
Like he took away more than he threw. Yeah.
I believe so. How do I? This freaking thing, dude. So he had 2 interceptions on the season. He intercepted 2 passes. Last year, I can't freaking, this Google Meet thing drives me crazy, dude. It's got this like little dumb pop-up thing, and it won't. Can I exit out of that? Can you guys hear me still?
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. So let's see last year. Last year he threw 11 interceptions, and he had 5 interceptions. And then he didn't play quarterback in 2022. So, but he probably had some interceptions because he played safety. So he probably had some more in 2022. Let's see. Lance Allred, 2. So he had 2. And then I don't know if he had any in 2021. He threw a couple in 2021 because he had to go in and throw a bunch in a game when he was a freshman. They were not super. They were like, Lance, get in. He didn't have any picks in as a freshman, and he threw 2 picks as a freshman. Oh my gosh, Lance. Yeah, Lance's freshman stats: 4 of 10, 22 yards, 0 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, a quarterback rating of 8. Yeah. By contrast, Avery Ellis that year had a higher quarterback rating than Lance. So, but look what he turned into, potentially one of the best.
Yeah, Lance gets the most improved player.
Yes, award. Lance most improved. He really came a long ways. I don't know if Dad's getting back on or not here, but
his phone died.
Oh, his phone died. Didn't check that before he started, did he? It's hard to see that button up in the top. So some
it's really small.
So some big time stats from this year that are cool. So as a team, we scored 790 points. That's over 13 games. Typically, if you go all the way to the state championship and you don't have a bye week ever, you play 14 games. We played 13, 790 points. That's an average of 60.7 points per game. So kind of crazy. That beats, so Caleb's junior year, they scored 754. That was an average of 52 or 53 per game because they played 14 games, I think. Or did you only play 13? Do you guys have a bye week in there? Sometimes we have a forfeit. 14, yeah. And so
we played 14 that year.
Yeah, so we averaged a touchdown more per game than we ever had. So that 790 points, from everything I've researched, is the all-time state record of 11-man football of all time. Nobody's ever scored more points than that. A big reason of that is the defense scored as many touchdowns as it gave up. So on defense, we had 13 passing touchdowns against us. We also had 13 pick sixes, right? So interceptions returned for touchdowns. Gave up 2 rushing touchdowns on defense the whole year. We also had 2 fumble recovery touchdowns. So we scored 15 defensive touchdowns, so averaged more than 1 per game. Special teams was first all-time in PATs. That obviously happens if you score a ton of touchdowns. Anderson missed 1 game, so he's second all-time. He missed it by 1 PAT, second all-time, but as a team, the most PATs ever. And we also scored 5 touchdowns on special teams and blocked 5 kicks. And so 20 non-offensive touchdowns. We had a bunch. We had 5 different quarterbacks throw a touchdown over the season, and so that's not 5 different players. It's 5 different guys whose position is quarterback threw a touchdown. So you had Lance, Grant, Manny. Wait, is it 5? Maybe I totally miscounted. Who do we have? Maybe it's only 4, and I just wrote 5 because 5 doesn't sound right. We have 4 different ones. Let's see.
Yeah.
Lance, Grant, Manny, Ernie. That's right. Sorry, we didn't have 5. So we had 4 different quarterbacks throw a touchdown. So senior, 2 sophomores, and a freshman all threw touchdowns in a varsity game, which is pretty cool. 18 different players on the team scored a varsity touchdown. Santana Luna scored the most touchdowns of anybody. He had 25 touchdowns between offense, defense, and special teams, and also was 1,000 yards, 800 rushing, 270 receiving. Ben Jenks scored 13 touchdowns between offense, defense, special teams. Jackson Larson had 14 touchdowns and 1,000 yards receiving. So he was another 1,000-yard receiver, like the 8th or 9th in school history. Shea Stevenson had 12. Lance scored 19 touchdowns himself and passed for 40. We had 33 interceptions total, which is a school record, for 690. So this one's crazy to me. So we talked about the pick sixes. We gave up 13 passing touchdowns, but we also had 13 pick sixes, meaning the touchdowns we evened them out with defensive touchdowns. We gave up 1,200 yards passing over the season, but of our 33 interceptions, we returned those for almost 700 yards. So 694 return yards on interceptions, which is crazy. So more than half of the yards we gave up, we got back on interceptions, plus scored as many touchdowns we gave up on defense, which is so crazy. Like, that's nuts to think about. Only gave up 600 rush yards and 2 touchdowns all season, so less than 50 yards per game and only 2 touchdowns. And we played some good rushing teams, and 100 of those yards did come in the final. That I think Jacob Williams is named, good running back for Seton Catholic. I think he cracked 100 yards. I think he had like 105. Leading tacklers were your linebackers, Ben, Lance, and Nathan. But Brian Midone, who's actually a JV player, he was 4th on the team in tackles, never started a game on varsity, just played special teams and would come in on backup on defense, but had 50 tackles on varsity. So crazy. Like, he made a lot of tackles. So it's kind of the whole team. Yeah. I mean, special teams wise, I feel like our kickoff team was crazy all year long. That's why it kind of sucked to give up that touchdown, because it was like, our kickoff team was really good. Fisher, Dax, Brody, Bishop, like, there's some guys on there that made stuff happen. Our offensive line was really good. We ran for almost 3,000 yards, which is a lot, obviously. So because you have like guys who have played a while. So Abel, this is his 3rd year starting. Rolo's 2nd year starting. Asher's 3rd year starting. Ellie's 1st year, but like a really solid offensive line. Defensive line, you had Orly Sentien, who's played defensive line, who's awesome, should be all state, but I don't know if they'll give it to a sophomore. But let's see. What's the most? Do we have rush yards in a season by somebody on the career thing? No. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how much this would compare to rushing in another season, but oh well. Anyways, yeah, so some crazy stats. Any thoughts on any of those? I guess Dad kind of missed because his phone's back on now. I don't know if he can hear anything we're saying.
I can.
It's hard to even have thoughts on that because it's so like it's just so much, and it's so crazy to even to even think of that. 13 interceptions for 700 yards is like, there's teams that don't have that. Their offense doesn't have that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, there seriously is, fun. And some of them are in our league, right? Like, legitimately didn't have yards, but like that many touchdowns didn't necessarily even get. We had that many on defense. Yeah. And it's crazy. You see comments and stuff on social media of like, well, it's just Royal. Like, why aren't they playing up? And it's like, we don't have that many kids. Like, we are like well inside the line of 1A. It's not like we opted down or anything. This is just who we have. This is just who's here.
Yeah.
So kind of crazy. But I think that's
pretty amazing.
That 790 points is awesome.
The culture of it, really.
Mm-hmm.
Like, everybody's expecting each other to, to work their butt off to get that point. And it's funny, having coached middle school, is like the middle school kids expect to go win championships. And that sounds kind of entitled when you hear a seventh grader being like, yeah, I'm going to have whatever. Like, they're like thinking of ideas to do their little Josh Sims ring, like their designs. For the You're 13 years old, but it's like, but then they show up every day, you know what I mean? Like, that's a motivation that they're going to, through every summer and every fall for the next 6 years, they're going to be thinking about that and then putting the work in, and it shows year after year.
Yeah. Yeah, there's something to it. Caleb, I don't know if you Dad.
Sorry, it begs the question, is this the best team Royals ever had? Too bad Corbin's not on here. He'd love to argue that. And Caleb, too.
Not saying anything crazy.
I think...
Yeah, I don't. I think a number of those things, and it doesn't matter if it's the best team we've ever had. I think stats like that, holy cow, I don't know if it... And I think we've said this before in past years when we've had great stats. Oh, man, wow, how's anybody ever going to break that? And Royal just seems to do it again.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
it's pretty cool. And I just say that just to banter a little bit. I don't say that as in it's even important to know what the best team we ever had was. But
yeah, we need to get maybe we'll get some guests on the podcast to debate. I've seen people talking about best ever quarterbacks or players. Maybe we'll have some of the experts on. Maybe Wiley or Jeremy or Kyle or some people that were around them all can give us some rankings on those kind of things or best teams. I think for this team, what I feel like made them a little different, because you looked at other teams and there were some like just dudes on some of those teams, like Derek and Avery on the same team. That's crazy, like some of those guys. Or like Caleb's year with Caleb Cooper and then Medina and Carlos. Like, you just had some serious guys. And on this team, you do, too. That's not to say, like, you don't. But this team, I feel like the focus was just a different level. Like, there was never really any times where you had to, like... And it's been that way with them all through middle school. Like, this group of seniors was the first group of kids I had coaching 8th grade. So I got to coach them in the COVID season, which was really fun. And then having been around them the past 2 years coaching with high school, like, their level of focus is just crazy. Like, just that one goal that they want to get to. And, like, every single kid, you couldn't point to one kid and be like, oh, yeah, that's the goofball. Like, we got to keep our eye on him, keep him focused up. Like, just all the way down, super focused. And I think that was a big, like, difference for this team because they were never out of it. They never overlooked anybody, like, no matter what. And that's why you score 70 4 teams in a row, even if they're bad teams. So... I don't know. It'd be interesting to debate about who's the best.
Sure would.
We'll see. Everybody's muted because they're eating.
Yep.
See the microphone's like, all right, then we're going to chime in, and everybody's eating on the camera. Okay, that's good, though. That was very polite of you guys to not have the microphone
I'm locked
while
in
you're
on
eating.
this 49ers-Rams game.
What's the score?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, is it still 3-3?
It's 6-6 right now with
How much time's
10
left?
minutes left.
It's a barn burner.
10
That
minutes.
is fun.
The Rams are on like 10.
The 10-yard line,
Yeah,
their
it
own
was
or
really
the
intense.
opposite?
How can you pull your attention away from that?
Mm-hmm.
4th down, they're kicking another field goal.
There we go. There we go. I love field goals. They're so fun. Yeah. So
Well, let's get to some of our other things we were going to talk about on the agenda.
Okay. So, like, what do you mean? Like, just keep moving down?
I don't know, past
we
state
talked about that.
championships or
Okay, yeah. Which championship team was the best
memories from
championship
other
team
state
of all
championships.
time? I don't know.
Yeah, good question.
Not any of those early ones because we didn't watch them. I don't know.
Well, yeah, true.
I mean, I've
It's
read a lot
so
of
hard to
stuff.
say that just because I think even like Kyle explained on Kyle Scroggins on Facebook of how the offense is continually evolving and
Yeah.
you play to player strengths. Can you say Lance is the best quarterback? I mean, obviously he's got the stats and he can run the ball and throw the ball. And maybe we should talk about that too. It's so interesting to see Lance's game advance. Like last year, for me, it was kind of like throw the stinking ball, throw the ball. The guys throw the ball, but he wouldn't because he could run forever, and that was great. It worked. And this year, until the state championship, I don't think he threw or ran very much. And man, he was so good at passing. It just was like, wow, he has really improved his passing game from last year. That was cool to see and witness.
Yeah.
And then when you get stats like that in the state championship game, it's obviously like, okay, this is a true dual threat guy.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, he can throw the ball when he needs to, and he can run, and he is tough to tackle.
Yeah.
So
I think
I don't know, back to our...
I think a big thing last year that comes into it too is Ethan Ellis last year was our running back, but sprained his ankle really had a high ankle sprain. So Lance actually last year had 600 more passing yards and had 200 more rushing yards over the course of the season. He went for 3,000 passing, 800 rushing. He was 2,400 and 600, but no less effective, maybe even more effective in some ways. But last year, I mean, we played with a ton of different running backs. Like Jared Lee, he was a running back and played a decent amount, but also, was really important on defense. And you had Shea jump in there and Ethan a little bit here and there, especially when he came back towards the end of the season. So a lot of different guys in a lot of different spots. But yeah, just the way the offense adapts to different kids. Like this year, like Luna could kind of do it all. Like could run out of the backfield, could catch out of the backfield. But then you have Jackson and Shea and Ben and Caden Fitzhugh and Demi, and then even and then Fisher, and then even kids like Ezra and Anderson that didn't even play a whole ton on offense, but could, like if you needed to. I think that was just a big difference this year. And then you're scoring a ton on defense and stopping teams a lot, so you're not getting as many yards. That's another big thing. Whereas Caleb's junior year, Caleb has the single season records for passing, right, with most yards and touchdowns. But your junior year was like one of the lowest rushing years we had, like running back wise. I don't know if I think.
Yeah, I don't really remember. I think Lorenzo was the running back, but we didn't.
Lorenzo had like 800 yards. Yeah. He had like another like 500 receiving. Like he ended up with a lot of total yards. But it was just a different.
They caught the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could go year by year.
So much of that can change based on your personnel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
We didn't have a very fast quarterback those years, so that didn't help.
Yeah. you weren't running the ball out with the quarterback. Yeah, let's see. 2019, what the stats were. Rushing yards.
And that's okay.
Yeah, I mean, you guys still ran for 1,700 yards. Anyway, we were saying, Daddy, look at Caden Jenks.
Yeah, I don't know that there was a crazy running back even through Caden's time in there, was there?
No, I don't think so. I mean, Joe, when
tons of yards,
was a junior, like Joe's a good running back.
Yeah, I shouldn't say crazy. There definitely were some good running backs, but not. I mean, they didn't have a ton of yards, and who knows if that's well, that's because Caden was so good we threw the ball, or if that was like, okay, well, we don't have a running back going to get 1,000 yards, so we're going to throw the ball more. And Caden steps up. Who knows how you really analyze that? But
yeah, so some stats
it's hard
here.
to say, oh, this team was better than this team because there's just different talents in different places.
Mm-hmm. So in 2015, we ran for more yards than we passed for. Had 2,900 rushing yards versus 2,700 passing yards. 2016, we had about 900 less rushing. So you went about just over 2,000 rushing yards to 2,600 passing yards. So passing stayed pretty consistent, but rushing went down a bunch. Then you go to 2017. Now Sawyer's in at quarterback. Passing yards actually went up and rushing yards went up, but passing was still higher by like a big chunk, by like 600 yards. And then 2018, I'm going to guess they were both really high. That was the year we lost in the semifinals. But yeah, almost 3,000 passing and 2,500 rushing. So it's like there was a lot of offense that year. Like you see some years a little higher than others. 2019.
Yeah, that would have been.
Yeah, was way higher in passing. So 3,300 passing yards to 1,700 rushing yards, where the rushing was a lot lower. So the offense just adapts. You had Caleb, who maybe wasn't going to run around as much as a quarterback. You still had good running backs, but you could kind of place the ball all over. So your offense just adapts. And that's kind of the big thing, I think.
Yeah.
That happens. 2020, I guess this COVID season, only 500 yards rushing, but that was still more than 100 yards a game because only 5 games. So, and then dead even rushing and passing in 2021, like 1,500 in 5 games, averaging more than 300 a game.
Yeah.
Dead even 20, and then in 2022 they were actually
that's a cool stat.
Pretty close. Yeah, that's if you project all those that COVID season, if you project all those out, it shatters all the records. Maybe not the scoring record of this year, but all the yardage records, like passing, it kills. Yeah. Last year we were over.
I think it's because we had to play whole games that year.
Yeah, you did. That's the thing. You play the 4A schools, so you actually have to play the whole game instead of like. That's what's crazy about this year, is like. I mean. Between
did all that in one half.
Yeah, between Wahluke, Wapato, Natchez, and Klahowya, and even College Place. Like, I bet our varsity ran like 30 total offensive plays across all those games. Like maybe 40. Like they were just like you come in and you score on your first 3 or 4 plays on varsity, plus a couple on special teams, plus a couple on defense, and it's like, okay, well, yeah, take the starters out early second quarter. Like you just didn't get that many chances to play. So that does make a big difference too. So it's the stats don't really tell the whole story. You kind of have to break it down, and we're probably Caleb's maybe a little more of the expert of breaking it down because he actually played, but it was around a lot of those years. But yeah, hard to say. I don't know if I had to take a guess. I'm pretty partial to this year having been around it. And then I think that COVID season, like I think that was like a really crazy team that people just, 1A maybe got lucky that year that they weren't playing a full state tournament, because I think it would have been pretty similar to this year, just as crazy as that team was. I think. Because you had the same squad that had won the year before. Like pretty much everybody came back. You were missing Tyler and Lorenzo, who were really good, but you were bringing back a ton of guys. Caleb's better than ever. Cooper's better than ever. Jose, Carlos, Elliot, DeLay. But then you also had Derek and Avery, who were sophomores the year before and now are juniors and were really good. Luke Bergeson, was playing a lot more. Like he caught a bunch of touchdowns in the COVID season. So you had like a bunch of receivers. Really experienced linemen, like offense, defense. You had the whole deal. So I think for me, those are two. I can't speak a ton to the earlier years. I'm sure 04 and 05 probably would have something to say about that, and maybe 2000, but we'll see. We'll let those guys stew on it. We'll see if they listen to this and they say anything to me. Maybe we'll have them on. But I think 04, 05, you had guys like Ray and Kyle and Jeff and Pat Dorsing and James Dykes, and those guys that were really good. And then 07, you're a really good team too. I guess we shouldn't count out 07 with Austin and Dexter and like Blair Collins and all those guys. I think he was that year. A lot of guys. A good year. So
yeah.
96. Sorry, Aaron. I don't know if 96 was the best team ever. If Aaron Christensen is listening. They were good too. Nobody ever talks about 96. Being in the best of all time category.
They had the best scorer.
That's true. 70-0 in the championship. I would be interesting to see what our average score is in the championship, like how much we've won by. Because I saw that stat. It's only one or two of our finals have been within one score over this run. Because 15, we won by multiple scores. 16, won by multiple scores. 17 was one score game. 19 was a one score game. But 2021 was 41-0. 2022, I think we won by 2 touchdowns. Last year we won like 49-7, and this year was 61-28. This was one of the closer ones even. So yeah, you look at the scores over the years, even in the finals, like they've been crazy. So for the most part. Let's see. So this segment says legacy and gratitude. I don't know, do you guys feel like this, championship, does this add anything to obviously adds a little bit to the legacy. But had we not won this year, I don't know. It's hard to say. Like, what would the difference in thought be about the team or the program? I think 5 in a row is a big deal.
I think at this point, it's not even like winning another championship doesn't add to the legacy as much as like losing one or not winning it would take away. It's just maintaining the consistency. Whereas if you lost one, it would be like, or if you can make it to it, it would be. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I think so. There's that's kind of some diminishing returns,
like less impressive to win it than it would be if you lost.
Yeah, which is sad because it's still. It's not like it's
I think
any
that
different.
probably.
Yeah, it's not like it's easy, or just handed to you to go win it.
Yeah, that's what
it's just
kind of the
attitude for everybody.
Sometimes feels like. It's like, oh, you won again, so what? And it's like, okay, it takes a lot. A lot goes into this to making this happen. Like people don't. Like 5 in a row and 8 out of 9 it's insane.
I think Chase has got a point.
Yeah.
Yeah, and even when you listen to. It's funny to listen to a couple podcasts this week from various places, and they don't even talk about Royal. They talk about Seton Catholic, what they did, and
I can't even get people's names.
I think that goes along with what Chase is saying. Is the expectation is just the Royal's going to win, so why would we even talk about them, kind of thing. Yeah, which is fine. I don't think Royal cares about that kind of stuff, nor do the kids. But like,
uh-oh. Can you guys hear me? Hello.
This is to do.
Sorry, can you say that again? It cut out.
Keep the focus. Sorry, even when we got there to Husky Stadium, I remember thinking, "Man, it's so cool, but it's also hard." You think, "Gosh, to do this year in and year out and get to this level. One season even get to that amount to stay focused and perform every week and." It is not easy, and people just start taking around. It's Royal; they win all the time.
Yeah,
it doesn't get easier every year. Obviously, kids are more dialed in and more experienced, but you still got to coach them through everything, and still got to work hard. It is not easy.
Yeah, I think people realize.
And kudos to the coaches for doing that.
Yeah, if people saw, especially like Wiley and Jeremy, just the amount of time they put into watching film and breaking stuff down, goodness. It's crazy. Like it's so much. Like especially defensively, like just every situation you could think of. Like it's crazy. And that's what's hard. I think you look at now. I hope this doesn't come off as like unappreciative because I think a big part of winning like as many as we have and winning so much comes from the community and the huge like support from everybody, especially parents. Like what the parents do is crazy. Like how much time the parents put in, especially the Jenks, Brandon and Jen Jenks. If people knew what they were doing, the amount of food they were cooking for the team and taking care of stuff, and for the finals, that whole Jenks and Reese group, so much stuff. Like it's crazy. But it's like it'd be cool to have like a parade or acknowledge it a little more, do something, because 5 in a row is nuts, and it's like that. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe we'll think of something to do to honor the kids and the coaches who've been here through all of those. Because I'm just amazed by it. It's cool getting to be around it. Like I feel like I get to just kind of be a fan on the field and get to you do a little special team stuff and do warm ups with the kids. But I'm like, then I just kind of get to have fun and hang around. But yeah, it's cool. But it is hard. It's like, well, we're gonna have a parade every freaking year. But it's cool. I don't know. I just feel like that. Maybe that's just because I'm on paternity leave, I guess, and so I'm at home all the time, and I'm just like, I just wish there was more, something. But that's maybe just me being selfish. Maybe that's me just wanting to be social. Just like I need to get out of the house. But it's really cool. Like with these kids and what the coaches did this year was awesome. I think it was amazing. So, but I think like that definitely needs to be acknowledged of the people that show up week in and week out, no matter the weather, hot or cold. The parents who drive their kids to all these different things and take them to weights when even like because that's a big thing. Is many freshmen and stuff that come to weightlifting in the summer and morning weights all through high school, and the parents that do a ton to help their kids that's like a big thing, and freshman kids that aren't going to play, but are still coming to practice every single day and need all their clothes washed and sweats and hoodies and everything because it's so cold at practice. It's like, man, that's a huge toll on the parents, and they do an amazing thing too. Like it's really this huge team effort, and a ton of effort goes into it all around it. So I think that's huge. It's stuff you just don't see behind the scenes. Oh, Royal won again. It's like, oh man, the blood, sweat, and tears that went into this by the players and coaches and families and fans and school administrators and the bus drivers and everybody. It's a whole thing. So maybe this year, the past couple of years, what's weird because in other years we've won, and you play earlier in the day. You play at like 11 o'clock or 1 o'clock on a Saturday, and so afterwards there's some little party somewhere and you can go and you eat pizza and watch the film and different things. But the past couple of years we're done at like 7, and then you have to get everybody up on the bus to 8 or 9, and then you're driving home just so you're not getting home super late. So there hasn't been as much of a big party necessarily. So I don't know, kind of crazy. But it's cool. Definitely a cool thing, an awesome season. Maybe it's just hard to say. Maybe I just miss it. You're like what now? What's next? But that brings us to this next part. What is next? How do you continue to build on this foundation and continue to inspire future generations, right? So like Chase was saying, these middle school kids still stay, but how do you keep that vision up? Like, okay, well, we've won 1 million championships in a row. How do you keep people, especially the kids, how do you keep them excited and getting after it? How do you build on this? What do you guys think?
Just, by example, I think it's great. I mean, if you go to any of the games and you see the middle school kids, I mean, Cash can probably talk about this. Cash's buddies sitting down behind the end zone there. And anywhere we go, when we were playing basketball, even before the championship, and just, there's some kids in the gym, just walking through the gym. They also had a Cash. They also had the middle school kids. They're all like, I think there's like, a connection there that just comes naturally. I don't think those high school kids are going, I'm like, have to try and inspire these kids. Mm-hmm. But they just look up to them, and the high school kids have fun with it, and it makes a strong community around sports and football specifically.
Yeah. I think that's pushed by coaches too, Wiley and Jeremy. You're mentors. You're not just kids that come to play at Royal. It's their responsibility to teach these other kids too and inspire them to be great.
Yeah, I think so. Definitely a big part of it is kind of inspiring those future generations. And I think our Grid Kids program and our middle school football program are awesome, doing an awesome job of that. And it's just, okay, what's the next step? Like, you just got to be a little bit better every time. So I don't know. Hopefully the kids see that and are inspired. I think there's been a lot of waves of that. Like, I think
a lot of it is probably, a lot of ways. I'd say it's a family thing too. We're a small town.
Yeah.
A lot of these players watch their big brothers play or their cousins play or their uncles, and that inspires them. Oh man, like that's probably part of what inspires Cash is, oh, my big brothers played. I saw what they did. I want to go play too.
Yeah.
And that builds on itself. It's part of a program.
Yeah. Trying to build a program. Yeah. I remember when I was in high school, because I didn't really grow up here as a kid, but starting high school here, it's like, oh man, we haven't won for a while. And you kind of had that desire to, that was kind of so crushing when we lost, just because we were that close to being back at the top. But then, 15, 16, 17, those guys were middle schoolers when we lost. So it's like then they start to see it. And then now this group of kids in 2024, I mean, they were 9 years old in 2015, 8 or 9 years old, when those first group of state championships started. And so, you just see it and want to be a part of it and the different things. So I think, it's just inspiring those future generations. And the kids do an awesome job of that. I honestly don't know how much that's necessarily coached into them. I just think it's just part of the culture, right? Is getting excited about those things and getting excited about middle school football, like when they're playing, trying to go watch them and do different things. So it's cool. There's some good classes coming up for sure. So it's exciting stuff. We'll be doing a podcast in 5 years about Cash being state champion. All right. I think we'll start wrapping up here. But thanks to everybody who for listening, who has been listening. We appreciate you guys. And thanks to everybody, if you are listening, for being a part of the championship journey. It's awesome.
Can I say
something
go ahead,
else
Don. Real quick? They can't help but, to me anyway, is Wiley's 300th win, and that being on a state championship.
That's even cool.
That is incredible.
Yeah.
And obviously he has given so much to the program and built the program, really. Mm-hmm. And I love the fact that was at the state championship game that he got that. So I got to say something about it.
Yeah, that's a big thing. I forgot to put that in, but yeah, we should talk about it. So Wiley got to 300 wins. Some cool things about that. I think there's only 3 other coaches with 300 wins in state history. All of them, it took them more than 30 years to get there to 300 wins. Wiley got there in 26 years as head coach with a 91.8% win rate, which is like one of the highest in the country, highest of the history of high school football in the history of, across the entire country, which is crazy. So,
Yeah, that is.
Yeah.
That is phenomenal.
Yeah, so that's definitely something that should be acknowledged. Like, it's awesome. And I know Wiley is not one to, necessarily be to his own horn and stuff, but it means a lot, I think, to all of the players who played for him across all those years to be a little bit a part of something so crazy like that is awesome. So, definitely congrats to Coach Allred and congrats to the program, all the kids that were a part of that. Jeremy said I think Jeremy was a junior Wiley's first year, so he said, I was there for number 1, and then he's assistant coach for number 300. So it's pretty cool. There have been a lot of crazy years.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That is.
Mm-hmm. So it's awesome. Hopefully Wiley.
So cool. We'll talk about that more in we'll get Wiley on here.
We'll get him on here.
That more,
Hopefully, I always feel bad because I'm like, I know he doesn't love the people,
right.
But I'm like, it's cool for all the kids
speaking
and
it
stuff
out,
to see. So it's like, I like posting those things on the Instagram and stuff. Like it's cool because it's an amazing thing. It's like what you can do. He's already in the Hall of Fame, and so maybe they need to make an extra Hall of Fame. Rename the 1A state championship trophy the Wiley Allred Trophy. He'd hate that, I think. They announce that at every championship game for the end of time. Who knows? Maybe like it. But yeah, it's really cool. And that being at the state championship was cool. Just another thing that I'm like, that should really get acknowledged more than it has been. So hopefully this is a little bit of acknowledgement. That's good. But yeah, definitely. Any other things I'm forgetting? There's so many cool things. It's easy to forget them for this season.
Yeah.
All right. Well.
Yep. We could talk about state championship memories. There's particular memories I have that I think we're past time.
Yeah, I think so. I am working on getting some guests. I know Sam Christensen is one. There's a cool story. They got like all their stuff stolen before 2015, so just kind of had to put on random stuff, equipment for the game. So we're gonna have some guests on here. Hopefully, I can't tease too many, I guess, because I haven't confirmed with them. So I don't want to be like, yeah. But Sam, I did talk to. He said he'd be down to get on, and his brothers. So maybe next week I'll text him and see if he wants to. But we definitely will go through some state championship memories in these next few weeks. Get some guests on, maybe debate greatest all-time teams. Other than that, this week, I think it's on NFHS, the boys basketball are in Boise playing in a tournament, and then girls, they might already be done. I know they played Riverside yesterday. Now. The girls are the boys. They're probably playing right now. Yeah, if you listen to this right now, I guess. And then the girls basketball, they were in Spokane,
boys,
I think, for a Riverside tournament. So I know they won yesterday. So basketball season's getting going. It's a quick turnaround, but get out there and support. And then wrestling, I guess I don't know too much about wrestling when stuff is, but should be a good wrestling team this year. I think there's some really competitive kids for wrestling, especially Shea Stevenson took second last year in state. He's a great football player, so let's go Shea. Let's see if we can win a state title this year. But yeah, tune in the next couple weeks. Thanks everybody for listening. We'll see you guys next time.